Hi everyone, this is my final project for this class. So with weeks 1 through 4, they take me back to the one idea to share that I made in our first 3-2-1 discussion post, and it was centered on a statement Marilyn Lombardi made in the article we were assigned Authentic Learning for the 21st Century. She stated, according to employers, the most important skill in new hires include teamwork, critical thinking and reasoning, assembling, organizing information, and innovative thinking creativity. The first 4 weeks of this class were primarily centered on the importance of establishing a learning environment that forces students to develop these skills. The traditional hour PowerPoint lecture with a sage on the stage teacher isn't congruent with what the real world wants in employees. Being that we are in the business of educating those about to enter a very specific workforce, we must change the way of teaching we're used to reflect some of the best practices of teaching. Whether we like it or not, it all starts with ADA compliance. This was something I had not even thought of before taking this class, and it has definitely opened my eyes. We must make our teaching content accessible to all students and work with them to make sure they are having their needs met. In addition, it's good to pay attention to how students learn, as they may not learn dental hygiene in the same way I did. Because of this, it's good to provide material that caters to not just one type of learner. A big buzzword discussed throughout this course was active learning. Establishing an active learning environment should be a point of focus when working on presentation and assessment strategies. Edgar Dale's Cone of Experience points out that students remember 90% of the things they do, further emphasizing the point that learning isn't a spectator sport. We must involve our students in ways where they are able to achieve those higher order thinking skills while involving them in more activities that allows them to do. When incorporating technology, it's important we look at the substitution, augmentation, modification, redefinition model. Just because we use technology doesn't mean that we're bettering our students or creating active learning environments. These weeks really had me reflecting on how we currently do things at the College of Dentistry and what we can do to make things better. While going through these first 4 weeks, I didn't feel as though there would be a desire within our department to make the switch from sage on the stage to guide on the side, but I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic now as I've been sharing what I've learned and sharing my technology projects with my colleagues. They have all recognized that we need to beef up our learning outcomes and objectives and inherently our activities and assessments to foster those higher order thinking skills. So for the traditional class technology project, I chose Standard 8, which is learner assessment. Though this project was for a presentation strategy and not assessment, I still feel it fits with what Standard 8 says about learner assessment, specifically create engaging learning solutions to improve health professions education. Throughout this whole process, I've really tried to implement higher order verbs from Bloom's taxonomy into my objectives. This first project was the one I found myself most struggling when searching for technology that would support my topic and provide students with the experience to achieve a higher level of thinking. I ended up choosing Pear Deck for teaching record keeping for local anesthesia administration. Pear Deck allows you to import your own PowerPoint slides while using their system of in-class quizzing. My objective was to formulate in writing the essential information to legal performance of local anesthesia with 90% accuracy. With many of the Poll Everywheres, Kahoots, and Quizzes, the function to utilize a higher order thinking skill like formulate isn't an option unless you purchase and subscribe. I really liked that with Pear Deck, students could provide an answer in paragraph form and the answer would appear anonymously on the projected screen. This way, the teacher and students could, as a class, critique responses. Currently, our students are taught about the 9 requirements necessary for legal documentation by the way they do or practice, but the way they do or practice is only congruent with our dental management software. They aren't totally prepared to actually fully write out every piece of information. That's why Standard 8's learner assessment, create engaging learning solutions to improve health professions education, fits well here. Though I liked how I was able to utilize a higher order thinking skill, I don't think Pear Deck is very ADA compliant and doesn't quite have all the functionality that I would prefer. In addition, the user must have a Google account to access. It would be interesting to see if this tech tool advances in the future to provide more functionality. In addition, this first project taught me to focus my efforts not on creating the technology, but carefully aligning my objectives and assessments and to be more specific with them. For the online class technology project, I chose Standard 3, which is learning theory. For this project, I chose to use Insert Learning for my technology tool as a presentation strategy. It easily relates to Standard 3 learning theory. Learning theory states, apply content knowledge, pedagogical and professional knowledge necessary to carry out teaching responsibilities and for successful performance in the health professions field. Students were asked to read and interact in an article in RDH magazine entitled Anesthesia Tips, Hygienists Have the Experience to Deliver Comfortable Anesthetic Injections by Laura Webb. Professional knowledge by both the author and myself were incorporated in this presentation. Though the author had her own professional techniques, I provided sticky notes that supplemented the text to give information that is synonymous to my own professional beliefs. In addition, Insert Learning provides a pedagogical avenue that is consistent with some of the best practices for teaching. Something I wish I would have done the first time around is start off the presentation or reading assignment with a video of myself introducing the lesson to better provide more teacher presence. In the future, when I use this tool, especially in an online learning environment, I will strive to do just that. Though the article provided much content knowledge, I was easily able to add adjunct information and emphasize specific points, thus achieving Standard 3's learning theory. Like Pear Deck, Insert Learning also forces the user to have a Google account, which can be seen as a negative. I've learned that even though I'm an avid Google subscriber and user, it doesn't mean my students are. This project also taught me a lot about YouTube. I created a YouTube clip to serve as adjunct material in the Insert Learning article and quickly realized that when filming with a cell phone, especially during clinic hours, I must have a better setup for audio. It was difficult to mute out the background noises of a busy clinic day, all the while focusing on the audio of the conversation between operator and patient. In addition, it is best to not have your phone up and down, but rather film horizontally to provide better full screen coverage. The Flipped Class Technology project, I chose Standard 2 Innovation in Teaching. For the Flipped Classroom, I chose to use the Team Up option in Spiral. This can be related to Standard 2's Innovation in Teaching. This standard states, design effective learning environments using a variety of interactive educational and multimedia strategies which engage the learner in interdisciplinary and collaborative activities. It's evident in materials we were presented during this week that flipped classrooms can be very effective learning environments because they do just what this standard says about providing an interactive learning experience. My project was built to assess student learning by having them randomly assigned to groups and work as a team to develop a presentation that is focused on one specific injection. Spiral's Team Up allows groups to collaborate both in the classroom and outside of it to create a presentation. While creating this assessment, I was forced to think about copyright. There was an image from a book that the students all have to purchase that I wanted to share. However, I wasn't completely sure it would be considered fair use. As a result, I ended up creating my own image. It was perfect timing that we had received bonus material on copyright around the same time, as it really got me thinking about it. As far as the actual technology tool is concerned, I see major benefits to using Spiral in both flipped and hybrid classrooms. It's a great tool to use for collaboration and classroom activities. The Hybrid Class Technology project, I chose Standard 4 Best Practices in Teaching. The hybrid classroom is something I had heard of and thought I understood prior to taking this course. However, there were aspects of it that I didn't actually know. For one, just because there are multiple classroom settings doesn't mean that there should be more work than if it was just a traditional or online classroom. I learned that the online and traditional classroom should complement each other and that activities and discussion should be carried from one realm to the next. I was pleased to learn this as it was new information for me and my department. There has been talk within my department to make some changes, some courses hybrid, but probably for the wrong reasons. It's good I can share this information as changes within some of our courses progress. For my hybrid classroom project, I decided to assess students by having them create an infographic of assigned injections with PictoChart. Not only were they assigned specific injections, but they were to share their end products with assigned groups for further collaboration. This fits well with what Standard 4 Best Practices in Teaching states. Demonstrates reflective practice through the integration of evidence-based knowledge, skills, and attitudes towards establishing effective learning environments. Students are allowed class time to work on their infographic within their respective groups. This allows for reciprocity and cooperation among students and encourages active learning, two principles that Arthur Chickering points out to be as best practices in undergraduate education. In addition, because students are working within a group yet on individual projects, they are given prompt feedback from peers, yet another best practice principle. As with any new technology tool, there is a learning curve. Once I felt comfortable with the technology, it was easy and fun to use. I foresee myself utilizing this many times in the future, as many students today are visual learners. For the field trip technology project, I chose Standard 6 Instructional Technology. This week I chose to create a field trip using the wand, a computerized local anesthetic delivery system. Not only is the technology of this delivery system current, but the way in which it is presented also reflects what Standard 6 Instructional Technology states: demonstrate effective integration of current and emerging technology into health professions education to foster active learning and employ innovative teaching strategies for today's learner in both a classroom and distance education setting. This lecture has previously been solely the traditional 1-hour PowerPoint presentation where students sit and take notes. Because the wand is a foreign system and learns second to the traditional syringe, most students don't have the appropriate amount of time to process the information in class before heading up to lab to practice. Thus, students don't really know what they are doing as they weren't allowed the time to process the information. Plus, they are already comfortable with another delivery system, so they memorize the wand for a quick evaluation and forget about it. My hope is that the video I created with WeVideo will allow students the time to pause, rewind, rewatch this new anesthetic device. With the proper amount of time given, students should then feel more comfortable using in-lab or clinic and ultimately the real world of private practice. This project fits with the standard of instructional technology as it allows students to utilize it in any classroom setting. In addition, active learning can be seen as students are able to control the speed at which the information is coming. One thing I learned when creating my field trip was that it's best to take the necessary steps to make a plan of attack. It doesn't help to film and edit if you don't have some sort of idea or script created first. Also, make sure you allow yourself plenty of time to film and edit, as it can become tedious even for the most particular producers. Also, it's important to first test out different devices that video and record. My phone ended up working out well for the video component, but the audio wasn't the best, forcing me to voice over everything. If working on a professional production, it would be best to have some sort of microphone. I plan to purchase the WeVideo subscription for $7.99 a year. This was probably one of my favorite tools I worked with throughout this course. As a side note, I even plan to create and edit videos and photos of my son and soon-to-be-born daughter with this technology tool, so I encourage other parents to look into it. You don't have to be a tech guru to use. This is the second course I've taken in the Masters of Health Professions Teaching and Technology program, and it is easily my favorite. After taking it, I don't feel intimidated to try new technology tools. I feel I can come up with a presentation, assessment, or activity that ends up meeting the modification or redefinition steps of the SAMR model. In addition, I feel very comfortable creating learning objectives and assessments that force students to use higher levels of thinking. The technology tools are working for the objectives and the assessments, not the other way around. Besides learning about content and technology this semester, I feel one of the best things I learned was how to be an effective teacher. This course gave me more practice with providing constructive criticism to classmates' projects and weekly discussion posts. Though it's not always the most fun and easy thing to do, it's a skill that I feel teachers must learn to do gracefully.